February 24th, 2012, I worked late watch in the 4th Division for Louisville Metro Police Department. A home invasion came out. So I was first on scene. We were short that night. So when I pulled up, I got out of the car, and all I knew was that a home invasion had been called in. Got up to the house, and everything looked normal. Blinds were open. I could see the TV in the living room on and all the lights on. So I cleared the perimeter of the house first. And when I got around to the back porch, there was a guy in a black and white striped hooded sweatshirt on the back porch, and he took off running. There was one of those security floodlights that light up the yard. So I chased him, and I could see his hands clear as day, and he had nothing in his hands. So I reholstered my gun. We ran down the alley, turned around, ran back up the alley. He had probably 10 feet on me. He jumped a fence. I grabbed the fence and jumped the fence, and as my feet were hitting the ground, I got shot the first time. He pulled the gun out of the front pocket of his hoodie and was running and firing behind him as he ran. The first round went through my gun hand, and I went to draw and couldn't feel anything. So I figured my hand was out of the fight. Second round missed. I reached across to cross draw where my training kicked in, and when I cross drawed and came out, that's when I was shot in the chest. That round went through my badge, which you can see, through my vest and into my chest about ½ an inch. That one knocked me down. I did the only professional thing I knew, and I reached in my shirt and pulled my hand out and looked, and I was good. So I was like, all right, we're good, and stayed in it. What happened is when it hit the badge and the vest, it slowed the round down, but it changed the trajectory, so it sent it up. So where it impacted me, and this is if only one thing is taken from what the opportunity you've given me today, this is what I would like to be taken. The impact point when we got to the hospital on the MRI was directly on my subclavian. There is no way to tourniquet that. Had I not had this badge on me, or this vest on me that night, I would not be here sharing my story with you today. Yeah, I'm blessed as can be. I lost 3 degrees range of motion in my thumb. The first round went through my thumb. It entered on the front and exited on the back, about a millimeter or so above the knuckle. So it destroyed all the bone in the center, but it didn't do any like long-term damage. This, I didn't even get like a cool bullet wound scar. It's a very, very minimal scar. So that, like I said, it was 1:30 in the morning. So that morning, after it was all over and I was at the hospital, I had some bleeding and just redness. And then a couple days later, from my neck to my waist was purple.
Really?
Yeah, it was like getting hit with a baseball.
Oh my goodness.
So a lot of pain there. So nothing long term. Really, the biggest frustration, I was off 4 months in a week, and I'm very active. My wife and I are power lifters, so we're in the gym all the time. This is different for every single person. I'm an extremely faithful person. I have tattooed on my side, God has you exactly where He wants you. In my mind that night, if it was my time to go, I'd have been gone. It wasn't my time. So my immediate thought was to stay in the fight and continue. In my mind, there was never a moment of stop. There was never a moment of freak out. I autopiloted to what I learned in the academy and my training. I did the things that my instructors preached for the 32 weeks that I was in the academy, and that I always thought, oh, that's silly. What do you mean that you just do stuff and not realize you were doing it? And it happened. Yeah. Hindsight, going back through it, when I noticed that his hands were empty, I still would have reholstered my gun. I still would have chased that man. I still would have jumped the fence after him. It happens. Like that's the ugly elephant in the room with what we do in law enforcement is we don't have the luxury of watching the end result and then developing our plan. When I joined the Louisville Metro Police Department, day one of the academy, the Major Don Burbrink, who was over the academy when I came on, When we were issued our equipment, he said to us, "This is your equipment." When we were issued our vest, we were issued it the same time we were issued our uniform. As far as I was concerned, without having to be told, this is part of my uniform. I wear my vest when I'm in my dress uniform. I wear my vest when I'm in in a street capacity in this uniform, and when I'm in a business suit, I've got my raid vest within arm's reach in the back seat of my car. So as far as I'm concerned, this vest is part of my uniform. The advice I have is that a couple things. Never be afraid to talk about what you've been through. Never. Your husband, your wife, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, regardless of if they're police or not, they liked you and understood you before you became a cop, and nothing changes after you became a cop. They don't need to understand the why of what's happened or the legal end of what's happened. They are your shoulder. Do not be afraid to talk. The other thing is, regardless of how uncomfortable your vest is, I don't care if it's MSA, I don't care if it's point blank, I don't care who makes your vest, regardless of how uncomfortable it is, not coming home to your family trumps any of that. Wear your vest.